Hello to all of our Gold participants from around the world. I'm Fiona Lang-Sharp, IBCLC Public Relations Manager and MC for Gold Learning. I'm chatting today with Naomi Bar-Yam, and she is going to be presenting at our up-and-coming conference. Her presentation is titled Getting Milk to Babies: Social, Medical, Economic, and Commercial Forces. Well, welcome, Naomi. It's great to have you back here at Gold.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, and so I have prepared some questions for you. We were just having a little giggle offline about what we were going to be chatting about today because, as I mentioned earlier, Naomi, you really are one of the sweetest people I know, and I know how hard you work in this area. But that's, of course, part of why you're here because you have so many good things to share about it. But before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself to our listening audience one more time, and then go on. Part two of that question is really to tell people what prompted you to start the Mother's Milk Bank of the Northeast.
So I'm Naomi Baryam. I am the executive director of the Mother's Milk Bank Northeast, and is the founding executive director. So I was one of those who started up the milk bank about 10 or 11 years ago now. Um, and each of us who started the milk bank, who worked on it, has our own story. I have two of my children. I have four children. Two of them were born into NICUs, actually on two different continents.
Wow.
And in each case, I had more milk than I needed and was able to give it to others to help their babies. And that was what got me interested in milk banking and what that's about. And so I looked into it. After my youngest child was born, when we were back in the States, and discovered that there wasn't one in our area, even though there had been in the past. And that was sort of what prompted me. I emailed some colleagues and said, gee, does anybody else want to work on this? And the rest is history. We had a meeting and got started and moved it on from there. So it was a
Wow. Well, let me ask you, how many years ago was that you discovered that?
We had the first meeting to start the milk bank in my living room in March of 2006, so almost 11 years ago now.
Wow.
And
Well,
it took
that's
us
awesome.
about 5 years to get fully up and running and be a processing milk bank. It was a long process.
Wow, that's incredible. So was that, and was that a no, is that seemingly to you now a normal process? Because I know you probably have supported others now in, at least talking about, starting milk banks. Is that a normal length of time that it takes, or is that just dependent on your area?
It varies hugely. It really
Mm.
varies. I think it's probably within range of normal, but there's a wide range of how long it takes milk banks to get started. It depends on what kind of support they have. It depends on whether they are, at least the way it works in the States, and in Canada, whether you're part of a hospital system or setting up a freestanding milk bank. Freestanding milk bank has its own, you have to be your own organization and have your own infrastructure, whereas if you're part of a hospital, all of that is taken care of by the hospital, so it would probably go a
Right.
little faster if you're part of a hospital.
Yeah. No, that just struck me as a very interesting question because if someone's listening in, and wanting to know kind of, we could do a whole talk on that, and I'm sure, just to
Mm.
sort of figure out, what are the timelines realistically that you're looking at. So, but we'll leave that for another day for now. Okay, so your next question, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, but what have been some of the challenges that you faced in your work in general? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I've now been doing this for 10 or 11 years. There have certainly been plenty of challenges at all levels. Challenges I think of as a good thing. We tend to use that word now as being a bad thing. But challenges, are things to be overcome and they get us where we want to go. I
Sure.
think in thinking about it, one of the more recent interesting challenges that we've been facing is that as medical centers, hospitals, start to expand the use of donor milk. So donor milk is really designed to be used for fragile premature babies where they're going to be in the hospital for some time and working with the moms to bring in their own milk supply. More and more hospitals are also beginning to use donor milk for their bigger babies and their more um, They're more robust babies, and the babies are not in the hospital for quite as long.
Right.
And so helping the moms to breastfeed, to get started breastfeeding, has to be concentrated into a shorter time, and really working with hospitals to think about how do we use donor milk as a part of breastfeeding support rather than just saying this is a better supplement than formula, but really integrating it into what it means to provide breastfeeding support, and thinking with hospitals about the best ways to do that. And I find that a really interesting challenge to work with hospitals on.
Sure. Yeah, I'm starting to hear quite a big language shift all around, incorporating, how breast milk is used, the way that we talk about it, is impacting some of these changes. So it's an exciting time because I know that, a lot of these developments have been in place. We've had more milk banks up and running more recently again, and now we're faced, with some of the things that need to shift now in order to incorporate them. So great to hear that you're working on that. Thank you.
Right. And that brings up some triage issues and some ethical issues around who who gets the milk, depending on how much there is to go around in any one place or at any one time. And that brings up some of those interesting issues with,
Yeah,
their
absolutely.
adult uses of donor milk also. And so really thinking about who gets the milk under what circumstances is also an interesting question.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay, so let's dive into your presentation a little bit, and again, without giving too much away to our listening audience, we want them all to come and be part of our conference coming up. But tell us a little bit about what you're really looking forward to sharing with our delegates.
This talk is really sort of a 30,000-foot view of how we get milk to babies. And I mean, my professional background is really in social policy. So it's been nice for me preparing this talk to kind of back up a little bit and look at the big picture. And especially because this is a global audience, to really think about that globally and take myself out of my own context, and think about the big picture globally of how we get milk to babies and what are the things that we need to think about in order to move that forward and to do it better than we are now.
Well, that sounds excellent. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing some more. And so, for our listening audience, this has been Naomi Bar-Yam. Thank you so much, Naomi, for being with us here today and just talking about, again, an important topic, and a topic that's expanding very, very quickly. And again, your presentation titled Getting Milk to Babies: Social, Medical, Economic, and Commercial Forces. Thank you again for being with us here today, Naomi.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. And I hope people will enjoy and will be in touch both with me about questions if you have them, and also with one another about some of the things that we talk about.
Absolutely. And thank you for our listening audience. We'll look forward to having you again soon. Bye bye for now.